Part 3. So, where we left off, it was the revolution occurred. We took over the websites. We took over Wittenberg. By the way, that's the old format of Wittenberg. I really liked it better with the threaded views and everything. And just, to me, that still feels like the true Wittenberg. And neither the Republic nor the Kingdom has gone back to that format since, and it's truly disappointing to me. And if you want to make me happy, you'll do something to bring that sort of format back. But I don't know. May not be feasible, and people may just be used to what we've got. So be it, but that's my input. Sorry, it's late. Holy crap, he's thinning on top. Looking for the right thing to say. Where was I? Yes, the revolution. So it wasn't about one man and power. It was about, because he was the king, because he had concentrated so much state power in one person, and because he had been such a bully, he essentially was acting, whether the law said it or not, he was acting as a dictator. He did not crush. It wasn't totalitarianism. You can have a dictator without totalitarianism. And this is kind of what we had, because he did everything he could to crush dissent. He tried charm. He tried bullying. Tried all sorts of things. He has driven more people of value out of the country than any other cause in Talossan history. The androids were as repugnant as they were, and you can go back over the rolls, did not drive away as many people as Ben's bullying and fascistic attitude did. It's neither here nor there. So we're on the verge of returniture, merging again with the Kingdom, and a lot of people in the Republic are very, very excited. I don't think I can name more than 2, maybe 3 people who have, besides me, wow, I just sneezed, who have expressed strong reservations. I think I've probably expressed some of the strongest reservations. But to be fair, we went through a lot to create the Republic, and went through a lot to maintain it. And I hope that those ideals that went into creating it and maintaining it for nearly 8 complete years, I hope that those ideals are not compromised in any way, shape, or form, and that for whatever monarchy we have, that it does not become a tool for the same sort of bullying we had before. And granted, I'm not saying anything specifically about King John. So far, he seems like a genuinely nice guy. I've been saying this for a while. I still feel like some sort of social reparation is due to people like Jeff, to people like Michael, to people like my wife, to Johan, to everybody. I mean, people who aren't even around anymore. Matthias and Andrea and Martin Pierre, Martin Pierre, and it just feels like more than apology may be necessary. And I guess the creation of Fiova is part of that. Especially, it's not just that we were driven off and we had to go create our own thing. It's that the attitude for a bulk of those 8 years, and from a majority of the people, as near as we could tell, was one of disdain and disgust, and it was unfair because people were more willing to think in terms of, oh, you hijacked our boards. We hijacked the boards. They weren't yours. They weren't ours. They were Talossas. And we were not going to let the fascist dictator, as it were, or at least that's the attitude we felt, we were not going to let this individual and his concentration of power and his toadies to continue to use these resources, which we helped maintain in the first place, and some of us helped set up in the first place, and use kind of like, I helped build the hammer and the saw, and now you're trying to murder me with them. No, unacceptable. I get to reclaim that hammer and saw in the name of the people. And for other people who may have thought, oh, well, Gruber's doing this because he just wants to get back at Ben, or he wants to replace Ben with himself, well, then I submit, okay, true, I was a leader. I was one of the main instigators. I was one of the people who came up with the most ideas, absolutely, and I apologize not one bit for it. I was not, if I was, and yes, I was the second dean of the Provisional Council and the first president. I was elected by the Republican people. And after 1 year, I said, I'm good. I just want to make sure that the ship was sailing. And then I wanted to step down once we were out at sea. I had no intention of running for a second term or coming back and running for a third. I did try another run at it, but I didn't make it past like a preliminary round. I just was like, screw it. You guys got it. And I didn't make it too serious a go, so I really didn't have a chance. But it was never about getting me the power. Screw him. I'll show him by taking over. I'll put myself in power. You cannot find any evidence that that was my intention, nor that I have ever made any motion to do so. And at some point, possibly on the 10th anniversary of the revolution, I'm hoping to release every single email that I have in my possession, which covers about 2 years before straddling the line that is the revolution. So we're talking 2002, 2003, 2004, and possibly some 2005, which I have kept archived for some time. I haven't looked at it in a long time, but hopefully I can hand it off to an archivist of the kingdom, and that individual or individuals can carve out some objective picture, and they can see every awful word that I used and every horrible attitude that I have and every fit that I threw, and judge me accordingly. But also you can see what was actually going on behind the scenes when Ben tried to cut a deal with Black Hand and the Grey Congress, and how he turned on me and started, lying 2 emails after he said something, where on one hand he'd praise me, on another hand he'd do this. I think the only thing that would be better than just having those emails, a combination of those emails and the Wittenberg at the time, which had all of the supposed remarks that were awful. That being said, look at it. Is any semblance of me trying to take power, or any other individual? As a matter of fact, we had people saying, look, I want to be a part of this, but I don't want to run anything. We just didn't want this guy to run it, and we didn't want this mechanism to be in place so that he could place somebody else there, and he could run things through them. In order for things to change, the structure had to be broken. We could not reform. We had to revolt. And despite the fact that I consider myself a reform social democrat, technically a socialist, I believe in reform rather than revolution. In this particular instance, the structure was so horribly flawed and could be used against us in another instance that it was not a matter of the personality as much as it was the personality combined with the structure, which just made it horribly odious and awful. And we had to remove the structure. So a republic was set up, and the republic was set up to have a counterbalance. One elected head of state and one elected head of government, and they had to agree, or things were not going to be getting done. And quite frankly, I think that's a model that works, and I think even the big countries should be doing that. A couple of them are. So that's the reason for the revolution. That's the reason we created the republic. And that's the reason we continue to carve it out. And when folks who had made some attempt to be a part of Talossa but were essentially refused, or were peripheral to the history of Talossa, they were a part without necessarily being directly involved in some things, specifically the Penguinians, Um, it was, they're like, hey, knocking on the door, we saw what you just did. I mean, that was amazing to me that there were more than a couple of people who were watching Talossa the whole time this was going on. And then they came knocking on the door of the Republic saying, hey, nice job. Is it cool if we come in? And people like myself and Daphne, who were, for all intents and purposes, enemies. I mean, maybe not mortal enemies, not nemesis per se, but we did not like each other because, truth be told, again, it comes down to a major theme in my life. Strong personality for strong personality sometimes leads to conflict, often leads to conflict. But sometimes when a strong personality work together, that can lead to really good things. And so I was so happy that we could do that. All right, time for part 4.